everybody. Welcome to the feed. I'm Lisa Lopez Griggs. I'm one of the hosts here, here at the feed, and want to thank God today for our producer. Even though we had a big fight before the show, which Scarlett got to see a little bit of, which is kind of interesting, Scarlett, especially with the topic that we're talking about today, with regard to the workplace, which I think is actually funny. I'm like, did she actually attract this into her life? Like, what the heck? I was like, what is this? So thank you so much for just being so gracious with us today, and dealing and handling all the stuff that you've been dealing with on your own in the workplace. And for those of us that don't know, and all of our listeners that don't know your journey and who you are, because you are kind of like a celebrity in the epileptic world. You've helped to pass some legislation. I know you have a really cool, dog, Roxy,
Yeah.
that you love so much. And I think this is going to be a great interview today. And so I know that you have a lot of value to add, especially into the community of epileptics and caretakers, and especially with regard to the workplace. So maybe you could pass a law today to help Mike and I to get along. So why don't you tell everybody about yourself? Maybe just introduce yourself and tell us about your journey with epilepsy, kind of where that started.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Scarlett Stevenson. I'm actually about to turn 26 on April 5th.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And my journey with epilepsy started back in 2024. I don't remember having the seizure that I had. I just remember coming around in my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, his car. And he was looking at me like, I think you just had a seizure. I was like, that's really, really strange. And then it just kind of kept progressing from there. Like, I kept having more of them. I was diagnosed a little bit later in 2024 with epilepsy, and I've been experiencing seizures since then. The longest period that I've gone without having a seizure is 8 months.
Oh, wow.
So count that a pretty good streak.
Yes, that was a good stretch.
Get longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where my journey started out with epilepsy.
Wow. So when you were diagnosed in 2024, that actually wasn't too long ago. How did you end up having this beautiful Roxy dog? Was that part of your epilepsy journey, or was that kind of attached to something else? Because I feel like you've done so much in such a short period of time with regard to the law that you passed there in South Carolina, I believe. So maybe you could even talk a little bit about that. So how did Roxy play a place, in this, because you were just diagnosed a couple years ago?
Yeah, so I actually had Roxy since she was 2 months old back in January of 2019. She was born in 2018. She was, like I said, 2 months old when I got her, and I got her for the purpose of being a service dog for different medical conditions that I experience. And, I wasn't sure when I started having seizures, like, is she going to be able to pick up on this? And it was a lot of training. We did scent training with her, which my trainer helped me with, taught me how to do it. So basically what it is before I have a seizure, or you can do it after you have a seizure, but I prefer to do it before, because when I'm coming out of a seizure, I'm very much not aware of my surroundings. I take latex gloves and I put them on, and I take a cotton ball, stick it in my mouth and suck on it for like a minute. Then I take it out, put it in a Ziploc bag with the date and time on it, put it in the freezer for about 3 days, thaw it out, and then put it in a tin, and I reward any interaction she has with the scent. And so eventually, over time, she was able to pick up on that smell like that too, because a dog's nose is very powerful.
Yeah.
And she was able to pick up on that change in smell with me and actually alert to my seizures. And she's actually saved my life before.
Wow, that is so awesome. How did you know how to do that with the cotton ball?
That was something I learned through my trainer. I honestly would have had no idea how to do it on my own. But it makes sense to me looking back on it. Like, that's how you would capture a scent change.
That's amazing. And you're saying the scent change having to do with the seizure?
Yes. So there's like a chemical change, I guess, for dogs, like with their nose. Like there's a change in smell on the person. And that's what they're able to pick up on. At least that's the case for my dog, Roxy. And then she also has like a seizure response too. So she has the seizure alert and then the response. So she normally lays by my side. This is what my husband tells me that she does. She'll lay by my side, and when I'm like, after the seizure has happened, she will start licking my face to kind of bring me more back to the present.
Wow, that is just incredible. And you've been able to teach her this over how long was the period that she learned this?
This was over a period of a year, like a year and a half to a year.
Wow, that's amazing. How did that play a part? I saw that there was, with regard to the law that you helped to pass in the workplace, was she involved in that? Was there a piece where she was involved in that, or was she just in the pictures, or how did that play a piece with the whole workplace that was going on?
So she was involved in a separate interview, like with the news, like they kind of interviewed me on my story and like my journey with Roxy. In terms of the legislation, it's in the first phase of being passed. So we're hoping that it gets all the way up and gets like, officially passed. That was more sharing my story and what I went through in the workplace.
And what did that look like?
So I was forced out of my job because I have epilepsy. I was a therapist working at a state agency, and I had 2 seizures, my goodness, seizures at work they resulted in having to call EMS.
Wow.
Both of the seizures actually were so bad that I had to for them. But when I had the first one, my job was originally very supportive. They created a seizure action plan, which I really appreciated. And then after the second one, it honestly felt like it was the unsaid, well, this is an inconvenience to us. And, I needed to take time off. I was recovering. I had just gotten out of the ICU. And they essentially, again, without directly telling me, like, we're going to fire you, it was very much that pressure, like, you either need to resign or we will fire you. So while I technically resigned, I really just got forced out of my job.
And then right after that, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Right after that, what propelled you to want to pass legislation? Like what got you to want to make a difference in the workplace? Because we've actually had shows before on this topic, and I've asked in a lot of the groups before, like, would you tell your employer, or at what point do you tell your employer that you have epilepsy, and you might have a seizure on the job? And there was a lot of people that don't tell their employers. They may tell their employees around them just in case they have a seizure, but oftentimes they do not tell their employers because they're afraid they won't even get the job to start with. So what compelled you to want to make a difference after that happened? Like, were you angry? Were you sad? Like, what was that emotion that you were feeling that was a driving factor for you to want to get behind doing something to make a difference in the workplace?
I feel like what emotion I was experiencing was despair, like complete and utter despair over the situation. And it really drove me to, one, be more involved with the South Carolina Advocates for Epilepsy, which is like a community that we have down here. And that was what led me to be a part of the legislation. I really wanted to share my story in front of the medical affairs committee because I wanted them to understand that this is a very real thing that people with epilepsy go through. And turns out I'm not the only one. Someone else who was there testifying was like, I got pushed out of a job too. So I really just want to see that change that's necessary where like we shouldn't have to be afraid, to share that like, hey, I have this, or like having the job know what to do. Because the first time that I had a seizure, the only thing that I remember was prior to the seizure, a nurse coming in who was my age, like out of school, relatively new in the field, but all that information should have been fresh in the mind. A registered nurse, and she said, well, I need to put something in your mouth. And I was like, no, like you don't ever do that to someone who's going to have a seizure. So it was just really terrifying to know that there was such a lack of information on what to do.
Yeah, we did a show not too long ago with a gal from New Jersey. She's Paul's mom, Paul's Purple Warriors, and she was talking about how they just the legislation even were safety seizure in schools. Only about half of the states actually have safety seizure, education and in place. And oftentimes it's not, it's not there. Like people don't know how to respond. They don't know how to act, and what to do. What do you think some of the big kind of like misconceptions maybe have been in the workplace with regard to seizures? Like, did you tell, I know you were a therapist. Are you still doing that work now?
Unfortunately, no, I'm not doing that work right now. Mostly because I'm taking the time to focus on myself. I feel like that's the most important thing. If I can get the seizures under control, then I feel like, at least what I mean by under control is like the medication actually doing its job.
Doing its job. I know. I never feel like the medication ever does what it's actually supposed to do. I've never heard anybody really say, my seizure medication is working.
Yeah.
I've had people on this show that have said that they've gotten surgery and they've been seizure free for 15 years, but I've never had anybody say, my seizure medication is working and I'm seizure free because of my medication. It's just never happened. How often are you having seizures now?
So, like, it was really bad in January. Like, in the month of January alone, I was in 2 medically induced comas from seizures. I actually had one yesterday. I had a seizure yesterday. So it's been like, it's been like a few weeks in between them. But they're getting longer in between the seizures. So that's like a good sign for me. And really the only time I have a really, really bad seizure is if I forget my medication entirely, because I am very forgetful.
Oh my gosh. Do you think your seizures and your epilepsy have played a part in that?
Yes. And having ADHD on top of that makes it like almost like a double-edged sword basically for me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Did your husband, did he know you had epilepsy? Well, I know he was your boyfriend at that time, but the first time he saw you have that seizure, obviously he didn't know you had epilepsy.
Yeah, and neither did I. Like, we didn't know that I had epilepsy. There were a lot of, looking back on my childhood, while I never had a seizure as a child, there were a lot of symptoms like brain fog that like would not go away. And as soon as I started taking the medication, like the brain fog cleared up. And I was like, I wonder if that was a symptom, like even though I wasn't having like seizures themselves, if that was a symptom that I was having the whole time.
Oh, probably. Yeah, probably, definitely. And doesn't it feel better when you don't have that mental fog? Like you have the
It's
clarity of
so much
mind?
better. It's
Yeah,
literally so much
it
better.
makes such a difference, like a huge, huge difference. I can always tell a difference just when I'm just foggy, in my brain versus when I have like real mental clarity. Yeah, it's the big, big difference. And I think like these medications too, some of them probably make you have more brain fog and some probably make you have less. So I was asking you about the misconceptions with regard to the workplace. Do you think a lot of times these employers just like feel like there's too much of a liability for them? Do you think they're scared? What do you think it is that makes employers not want to hire somebody with epilepsy, or epileptics be so shameful that they don't, or fearful that they don't want to say that they do?
I feel like it's a little of both, honestly, or more a lot of both. Let's get
Mhm.
real there.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like, and from my perspective, when I had my second seizure at work, and like I said, I was recovering, I actually got an email from the executive director of the center basically saying that we need to consider the safety of other people,
Oh my gosh.
not me, the safety of other people. So they viewed it as a liability. And I feel like in terms of like them not knowing what to do, I do feel like there's a level of fear, like from them,
Yeah.
like we don't know how to handle this. So therefore we're not going to handle it at all.
Yeah.
The biggest question becomes like, what if a patient has a seizure? Like, is it different because it's the patient?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
so I I wonder if it's just that people just they fear what they don't understand.
I wonder too.
They just don't understand. People have fear around things they don't understand. That's why it's so important to have communication. Even on this subject of epilepsy, you know, you got to meet my amazing producer. I mean, if it wasn't
Mhm.
for Mike, I wouldn't be here. I never had a desire to do a podcast. And Mike, I know you're listening, even though you don't feel well today. Please, everybody, pray for Mike because he's super under the weather. Um, and I think Alyssa had a seizure yesterday.
Mhm.
So yeah, you know, I never wanted to run a podcast. Never did. And I certainly didn't want to do it under the circumstances that I'm doing it, meaning that it was only me becoming involved in the epilepsy community and advocating for the epileptics because my son passed away of SUDEP. And I didn't even
Mhm.
know what that was. It wasn't even discussed, it wasn't talked about. And I think after his death is when I really started to ask the questions like, how did this happen? And what is SUDEP? And why? And what happened to his brain? And, was he in pain? Did he actually have a seizure, or did his brain just shut down? There was so many questions that I had. And I think that's why I went searching them out in the communities. And actually that's how Mike and I met. But I never had a desire really to even, it was kind of like something we just dealt with. And I wonder, Scarlett, if
Mhm.
that's the way you felt, you just kind of dealt with it. I love that you had Roxy though.
Yeah.
I love, I mean, I got a chance to look at your Facebook and see, the interviews that you've done with the news and the bill, and doing speaking at the Carolina State House on this bill, this S 935. So you're kind of like a bit of a celebrity in your community, and you are advocating for something that is so important to you. Uh,
Yes.
and you're doing it as a result of, right? So it's kind of like the
Yes.
same thing, but different. Like I actually have chills all over my body saying that to you. It's kind of like, it's a byproduct of what happened to you, right? The circumstance that happened to you with regard
Mhm.
to getting let go, of this job. And I think also being told that somehow that's your fault. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not your
Yeah.
fault. And I think that's like super uncompassionate. And you know, I know that God's working it all together for his good, because here you are, and now you're actually really making a difference, you know, not just in your own life, but in the lives of others. Do you encourage others to have service dogs? Like, do you know, like, does anybody ever ask you, you know, I don't know how much you are in the communities, but does anybody ever ask you, like, hey, can you train my dog, or can you get me one? Or like, do they ever ask you, like, are you open to taking people's questions? Like, if people actually want to talk to you about how you went about doing that, because it's really fascinating to me that you were able to put all that together with the cotton and the, you know, that whole thing is just, that's just wild to me. It almost sounds like divine in nature, you know, like it was downloaded to you from some, you know, from God in heaven, you know, source from, you know, is being deposited and downloaded into your spirit. Are you open to having people reach out to you if they want to and talk to you about that?
Yeah, I've actually, I've had a lot of people ask me questions about, service dogs in general. I actually run a relatively big Instagram page with, like,
Awesome.
documenting my journey. I also do service dog awareness, disability awareness. Um, but I do, like, I do get people out in public that will be like, well, how did you get a service dog?
Right?
And I normally tell them, like, like, first and foremost, you have to be disabled in order to have a service dog. That's
Mhm.
just how it is.
Yeah.
I kind of walked them through the process of what I did.
Mhm.
Per the Americans with Disabilities Act, you can either go through a program or you can owner train.
Mhm.
Now, owner training means you can do it entirely by yourself. I prefer to do it with a private trainer,
Mhm.
because, like, I don't know exactly what to do.
Mhm.
So I want to rely on someone who has that knowledge and has those
Right.
tools. So I've been asked those questions in public, in Facebook groups with epilepsy, like, support groups. I've even put myself out there and said, like, hey, if anyone needs advice or, like, help in knowing what to do with service dogs,
Mhm.
where do I get one? Like, I'm happy to give you that information.
Right. What's your social media handle on Instagram for everybody, just so that we have that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's Chronicles of a Service Dog.
I love it. Chronicles of a Service Dog. Okay.
And it's under my maiden name. So my legal name starts with Jillian with a G.
Yeah.
And the last maiden name is Crossman. And because I have a blue check mark on my Instagram, they won't let me change it.
Ah, okay. So Chronicles of a Service Dog. So if people want to go and follow the journey of you and Roxy, they can go to Chronicles of a Service Dog on Instagram.
And it also features so Roxy is 7 years old, so she has to retire at some point. So it
Oh,
also features my black lab Onyx, who is training to be my seizure alert and guide dog. So Roxy does guide work and seizure alert, which kind of, like, brings me to this other point, is that when I started having seizures, I actually lost a good portion of my vision at the
yeah.
same time.
Really?
Yes.
Did I just hear that right? Okay. So, okay. And then the other, because you have the black dog, right? Too. I've seen
Yes.
okay. What's the black dog's name again?
Onyx.
Onyx. That's right. Okay. Onyx. Yeah. I saw Onyx too briefly. So you have the one, how is your eyesight now? Because I did see something with that. Is how, tell me about your vision now.
So I pretty much can't see peripherally at all. I have
This
no
way. Okay.
Yeah, out of the sides of my
I
vision.
see.
So it's kinda like tunnel vision, honestly, like,
Like that.
everything's dark and
Interesting.
blurry to the
I
side.
see. Okay.
Um, and, like, it literally happened after my first seizure. Like,
Mm,
it started out with, me riding in the passenger seat, and my dad was driving, and I just all of a sudden, I blurted out, like, I can't see anything out of the sides of my vision.
wow.
And, it got worse from there, and I had a doctor tell me, like, "Oh, don't worry, your vision's gonna come back." And 2 years later, I still haven't had my vision come back. I'm actually legally blind.
Wow.
Um, I utilize a guide dog. I eventually do want to go through a guide dog program, which kind of sacrificing the seizure alerts. So that's kind of why I do owner training right now, at least. Because I get that dual capability to train in 2 different areas.
Is it expensive to train all of these dogs? How is it very costly?
It can be. So program dogs, as far as I know, the only free programs are for people who are visually impaired or blind.
Okay.
And veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. Otherwise, like for medical alert dogs, like seizure alert dogs, there are different programs that you can do fundraising with. But if you're not able to fundraise, you might have to pay out of pocket because insurance doesn't cover it.
Okay.
And these dogs can cost upwards of $38,000 or more from a program.
Are you serious?
I am very serious. I was actually on the wait list prior to the epilepsy diagnosis of a program, and I fundraised probably about $500. Like that was it. And they said, the wait list is 3 to 5 years long. Like if you want to be up, higher up on the wait list, then it's going to be $38,000.
Wow. Oh
and
my goodness.
That drove me away from, getting a program dog through them. I was like, you want to know what? I'm just not going to do this. And I'm just going to go down the owner training route, like continue it.
And then how much was the owner training route? Was that different? I mean, obviously you still had a cost for that, right? Because you're still working with a trainer. You're just doing most of the work yourself.
Yes. So owner training can vary. It can vary person to person, trainer by trainer. Between both of my dogs and like all the training that I put into Roxy, I would say I probably spent more than $10,000 like since 2018 till now. I've spent over $10,000.
Wow. That's still a chunk of change.
It is. It very much is. And that's why I say, like, a service dog is absolutely life-changing. Like I would not.
I was just going to ask that question. Like, I mean, I'm sure you would have spent it no matter what it was, but yes. I wonder if that helped did you notice that it helped your relationship with Roxy and with Onyx? Like, do you have a favorite moment that, you've had with each one of them? Like, okay, here's how I'm going to say the question. Was Roxy easy to train and Onyx easy to train? Like, and then like, do you have a favorite moment, obviously, with them?
So honestly, I hate saying it for Onyx's sake, but Roxy was a little bit easier to train. She picks things up really, really fast. And Onyx, he's still young. He's about to turn 2 on March 31st. So he's still a puppy. So you can see the gears turning his head. You can see the frustration too. Roxy doesn't really have that. She gets it and she's like, oh, I've got it. Yeah. But in terms of favorite moments, I would have to say that my favorite moment with Roxy is when she was a puppy. We had this coffee table in my parents' house, and she would like dive bomb underneath the coffee table. Like she would do the sploot. Like she would just go right under the coffee table.
Right.
And then Onyx, I honestly, the first time I put dog shoes on him, he ran around and he was like doing the high step thing because he was like, what are these?
Oh my gosh, he's just like prancing. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. How great is that? How awesome is that? I love it. I love it. What keeps you motivated, nowadays that you're not, obviously, you're really taking care of yourself. Obviously you're training your dogs, you're open, to helping other people kind of guide them, down that process. What motivates you, on days that get hard, what do you do?
So a lot of my motivation is like, like day-to-day stuff, like keeping the house clean because it does get messy with 2 dogs.
Oh, I'm sure.
One that tears up, well, I shouldn't say tears up, but tears around the living room and knocks everything over. That's Onyx. But like, you know, day-to-day stuff, I also do art projects. I love to
Awesome.
paint.
Very cool.
And, you know, motivation when things get tough for me is remembering that, you know, I have had some good moments too.
It's good.
You know, like being the 8 months without seizures at one point, you know, I motivate myself, like, you know, there is gonna be a time where that happens again. You know, not giving up that hope, because the moment I give that up is the moment that, like, all that darkness just creeps in.
Mm. Yeah. It's so important, like, we keep track of our wins,
Yes.
even if they're small wins and they're just small daily wins.
Yeah.
As we live in such a dark, evil place. And people are mean. I mean, you just saw Mike and I get so mean with each other. And I don't even, Mike, I love you. Like, I couldn't do any of this without him at all, nor would I want to. I wouldn't even want to. It's too difficult, and these subjects with epilepsy get really, really heavy. They get heavy. We interview so many parents that have lost their children
Mhm.
with epilepsy. But we also see that there's such this incredible bridge between the caretakers of epileptics and then the epileptics themselves. I could see now why the enemy did not want this interview to go forward, because I think a lot of people would be encouraged by the fact that you are a true warrior, and you are not just advocating for yourself, but you're really trying to make a difference, in the workplace with these laws and legislation, and also trying to let others know, kind of borrow your confidence with
Mhm.
regard to your approach to life.
Yeah, and, you know,
How did you become that person? That's what I want to ask. Like, were you born this way? I mean, I'm a positive person, I love people, but you're really special. Oh, who's that?
that's Roxy. Also, sorry about the background noise. Uh, yeah,
Look at
apologize for that. But that is
Roxy.
Roxy.
Oh, Mike, isn't Roxy so cute? Oh my goodness. Look at
Those are special
Roxy.
sunglasses.
Oh my gosh. Look at Roxy's sunglasses. Okay, tell us about these sunglasses. What's going on with these sunglasses? They're so cute.
So they say Queen Bee on them because she is very much a diva. She has such a personality. If I leave, like I go, because I'm from Massachusetts, so a lot of my healthcare is up there. So if I go up to
Oh,
Massachusetts and I travel, she originally gets very sad that I've left her, but when I get back, she's like, "Oh my goodness, you're back. I'm so excited." And then she'll realize that I left her for a while. And then she'll look at me and go cuddle with my husband instead of me.
really? So she
Yes.
lets you know.
Oh, she lets me know.
Yeah, I've heard that dogs do that. Like they're not happy
Oh,
when
she
they're
is not happy when I leave. Not at all.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's crazy. She's so adorable. Oh my gosh, she's so adorable. And Onyx is so cute too. What are their breeds? What breeds are they?
So Roxy is a mixed breed. Obviously, you can tell by her face that she does have some American Pit Bull Terrier in there.
Mm.
Um, she
Oh, that's a
has
great
other.
picture, by the way. I love that picture, Scarlett. Yeah,
I
I
know
love
she
that
just
picture.
cuddles into me in that one,
Yeah, I
but
love that. Oh, she likes snow.
she loves the snow.
Oh, she loves the snow. So she's got American Bulldog in her.
American Pit Bull
Pit
Terrier.
Bull.
And
Okay,
then she
terrier.
has Australian Cattle Dog, Golden Retriever, French and African Mastiff, but she clearly didn't get her size from them. Borbol, which is another really big type of dog, Chinese Shar Pei, and a little bit of Chow Chow.
I could see the Shar-Pei a little bit. What did you rescue her?
I did. I actually got her from a shelter up in Massachusetts in my hometown. She came all the way from Texas.
Okay, awesome. But you got her as a puppy.
Yes, 2 months
Yeah,
old. She was two
yeah.
months old when I got her.
Wow, wow, that is so amazing. And Onyx, what breed is Onyx that we see here in the photo?
So he's purebred. He's an English Labrador Retriever. His head is a little bit more boxy. than the American Labrador Retriever. I know it doesn't look like it in the photos because he's still young, but he is starting to get that boxy head to him.
Wow, look at him. But now he's a purebred, right? So he was not a rescue, or he was a rescue?
No, he was not a rescue. I actually got him from a breeder.
Okay. Okay. And are they good dogs? There's certain dogs that are good for service animals for people with epilepsy, and obviously, with being visually impaired, certain breeds that are better than others.
There are a lot of guide dog programs use Labradors because of how versatile they are. They're very friendly with people. They're very friendly with other dogs. Obviously, you don't see a lot of Roxy's breed. There is that stigma behind American Pit Bull Terriers.
Yeah.
And she's what you would call a unicorn in the service dog world. Her breed statistically does not do very well. But she is, really, really stands out in that regard. She's very friendly. She's very good with other dogs, even though she has been attacked before by a misrepresented service dog. She is just all around a fantastic dog.
Oh, she just looks it. She looks it. She looks like a sweetheart. Do you see this dog right here with Judah?
Yes.
This dog is Chief, and Chief actually has 3 legs. And
wow.
yeah, he's one of those like anomaly dogs with 3 legs. He's like, he kind of bounces like a pogo stick.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, one of his legs, my son brought him home one day, and I said, Judah, I said, if he does not get along with Brownie, which is my dog, I said, he's not staying. Like, he's just not gonna stay. And he did. He's I think a mix too, with maybe Pit Bull Terrier. And so loving, such a beautiful, beautiful dog. And he loved Judah so much. They had a great, they were together all the time, but he was jumping and he shattered his leg in like 20 places. In order for we had to have his leg amputated, but he was like my spirit animal, Scarlett. Like after that, and I wonder if you look at Roxy like that. It was like he didn't miss a beat. He came out of that surgery and it was like I was born with 3 legs. Like, he didn't miss it. He did not miss it. And still ran the same way, still doing all the things that he was doing prior to but it's always interesting to see these dogs with 3 legs,
Yeah, it is.
Bounce around, on that back leg. It's very, very interesting. But I think also too, if you could let people know, just, with regard to your epilepsy, I wanted to go back to that question. I kind of want to finish with that question. And then, if there's any other things that you want to add that we didn't cover, but how were you born this way? That's what I was saying. Like, what is it that has caused you to have such a beautiful spirit and beautiful mind and just the way you show up in the world,
Yeah, that was something I had to learn. I was definitely, I've always been resilient. In addition to epilepsy, I was born with a pretty rare airway condition. So I spent a lot of my early childhood in the hospital. And everyone called me resilient. Like I know how to bounce back from things. But the confidence was something I had to learn. I was definitely not a confident person. Like if you had told me about 5 years ago that I would be doing this kind of like, volunteering work, I would have been like, you're nuts. Like there's no way. There's absolutely no way I would do this. So confidence is something that I had to learn. Like I've always said that if my story can like change just one person's life, then everything that I've been through will be worth it. Like all the tears that I've cried, all the times that I've spent grieving, that will all have been worth it.
Yeah, you really have a beautiful spirit. I love the way that you and your husband relate to each other as well. I
Yeah.
think you guys have such a beautiful marriage from what I've seen on Facebook. He seems to really dote on you, and
Yeah.
seems to be very much in love with you and kind of, you know, pedestal you to a degree. And I can see why. You have such an awesome spirit about you. Um, and I think you're like family now with Mike and I. Definitely. You saw a side of us today that I never even saw before. Um, so where can people connect with you? I know they can connect with you on Instagram, at
Mhm.
Chronicles of a Service Dog. They can also reach out to you on Facebook,
Yes.
and connect to you with through Messenger, correct?
Yes,
If they have
absolutely.
questions, different things like that. Is there anything else that you would like to share, that we haven't covered today? Anything about the law? Anything about the work that that you're doing now going forward?
I feel like I just wanna end on, it was something that I wrote down in my notes app.
Mhm.
For the longest time, epilepsy made me feel powerless, and by sharing my story, I feel empowered.
Amen. I love that so much because I mean, I have chills like all over my body. That's really why Mike developed, the feed and this platform, is because we want to be able to give people a voice to share their stories so that other people can borrow their confidence, right? Their belief,
Right,
and be empowered by that. I also believe that the more that we have these creative conversations and we talk about epilepsy and we talk about our journeys, it allows us to be, like you said, empowered. And so, like, we're in the driver's seat, not the epilepsy, right? Like,
right.
we're in the driver's seat, even in the grief, because we can
Yeah,
turn that into advocacy. Like you said, the despair that you felt, you turned it into advocacy. And I
yeah,
think what you're trying to say is that even though your adaptability quotient naturally has been very high, this isn't something that you necessarily like called yourself to. It's like you kind of you're kind of doing it because you feel empowered by it. And I think what
yeah.
you're trying to say is that epilepsy doesn't own you. You've made a beautiful life, girl. I mean, a beautiful life out of something that can be so difficult for so many people. And so I truly hope that everyone listening today, all of our guests, that are listening, all of our audience that's listening in today, was truly inspired by your journey and all the things that you're doing. I want to end with this because I don't know that we covered it necessarily enough, but with regard to the legislation that you're passing, that you're trying to help get passed
Mhm.
all the way up at the highest levels, and we'll end with this. What is kind of your hope for that? What is the law, getting it to the end phase? What does that kind of look like? And what kind of changes would that make there in South Carolina?
I feel like getting it to the end phase is just continuing to share, like, our stories with epilepsy,
Mhm,
is like, especially for people in South Carolina.
mhm,
Not being afraid to go and speak up and be like, "Hey, I really want this bill to be passed for this reason."
mhm,
And what I really wanna see is the changes in I know that the bill would apply to state buildings, so,
mhm.
like, it would apply to where I once worked, and
Right.
I really wanna see that change of seizure recognition and response, like, knowing what to do, when to do it, how to
Mhm.
do it, and make job security for people with epilepsy so
So good.
much better.
Yeah, so good. I think that is so needed. We did a whole show on it, Scarlett, in the workplace, and it was a hot topic. Let me tell
Yeah.
you, it is a hot topic. It is definitely right up there with dating an epileptic,
I
and
can see that. I can see that
how to
completely.
actually navigate that journey as well, with regard to, when do you tell your employer that you have epilepsy? When do you tell the person you're dating that you have a chronic illness? You know, Yeah, it was definitely a hot topic for sure. So we thank God for your life, Scarlett. Thank you so very much for being on the feed today.
Yeah,
Cannot thank you so very much for being on the feed today.
yeah.
Cannot wait to have you back.
I can't wait to be back.
Hopefully we can have you back when you actually have like Roxy and Onyx right next to you. I think that would be amazing.
I feel like getting
I'm just thinking
Onyx
of
to
this
stay
thing.
next to me is gonna be the challenging one.
Yeah. Oh, I just love Roxy and Onyx so much. Thank you so very much for
Yes,
sharing
thank
with
you
us
for letting
today.
me be here.
Yeah, and you have been so patient, so gracious with Mike and I today, and we thank God for your life, and we love you, and we can't wait to have you back. Thank you again so much, Scarlett.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.